What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is doing well today on this beautiful day. Today I bring to you a highly requested video. A lot of you guys have been telling me, Strac, I need you to check this video out and let's just see what you think about it, man. Look, literally highly recommend it all through the comment section, my Instagram, my Patreon, even a Patreon. I'm like, people reaching out to me on the Patreon. It's gotta be that serious. So here we are, man. We went to Canada to see the U.S. product boycotts. And what we found was striking, bizarre. Ooh, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Feel free to follow the Twitch in the description down below, man. Striking?
This section here traditionally would have been filled with U.S. corn. Customers love it because it's a great product. What started as a big display has been shrunk.
In response to U.S. tariffs and President Trump's threats to annex Canada, 71% of Canadian consumers say they intend to buy fewer American products this year. That's having an
Hey, I would have thought the percentage would have been higher. 71, huh?
impact. The U.S. economy could lose up to 0.3% of its GDP, or about $90 billion in 2025, due to the boycott of American goods and the decline in foreign tourism. Giancarlo Tremarchi is the owner of Vince's Market, a Canadian grocery store chain with 4 locations. He's seen the backlash firsthand.
Talk to me a bit about how the Buy Canada movement has affected you at the grocery store.
Our customers are demanding from us as much Canadian product as possible. They're getting frustrated and upset when they see too much U.S. product.
We've obviously seen the very visible and visceral reaction from...
Well, I don't think it's strictly just Canadian products. I think it's, they're going by, let's not support America at all. So no American products. But, we can have, Canadian products or, products from any other country, that we are allies with, that we are cool with. We don't want it from the U.S. It's not strictly just, Canadian products. These reporters and, these other people fail to realize and mention, like, for real. It's not just about the tariffs and, ditching the U.S. and, Canadian products only now, benefiting the country, staying to itself. That's not how this works. They are still supporting other countries. Other countries are still supporting Canada. That's how it's going to be. We are just, eliminated. X out of that factor. They got to start mentioning that, man, or else I'm going to keep mentioning it. I don't know what they don't understand.
US policies, but it's very interesting to see from the consumer side what impact it's having. And these little acts of activism from consumers who have decided to turn their back on certain US products.
If there was a Canadian version and an American version, we probably already delisted the American version and supported the Canadian product because that's what our customers are looking for.
Right.
In several countries, including Canada and Mexico, and some in the
And you got to realize, if they don't do that, they losing their customers too. Probably.
European Union are responding to aggressive U.S. trade policies with retaliatory tariffs of their own.
The U.S. tariffs look like they're going to last for the duration of the Trump administration in one form or another. That's going to keep other countries kind of in a negative mood towards U.S. goods and services.
Yep.
So what impact is the boycott on U.S. goods and travel having? And is this just a political statement or a permanent shift in buying behavior? CNBC went to Canada to find out.
It's a permanent, man. Come on. Disrespected the sovereign and everything. Like, no respect. I'm talking about just ignorant. Just ignorant. The respect is gone. The relationship is ruined. Shattered. It's never going to be normal again. I think this permanent. I think this is permanent. It's no longer business. It's more so like, wait, it's like getting into an argument with your boy, right? Say you and your boy, or, you and your homegirl getting into an argument, da-da-da-da-da. Or maybe a family member. And y'all usually get into arguments and you say things, this and that, but you shake it off. But this time, they say something crazy and they go out of bounds. Say they say something about your mother or something. Something out of pocket that, they've never said before in their life. Never would have even thought about. You're going to look at them like, wait, is that deep? Wait a minute. And you going to take it that deep. Wait a minute, we enemies now. That's exactly how this is. I could argue with my boy, call him a big head. You dumb. You ain't got no common sense. Why are you wearing those shoes? Why your hair look like... I can say anything I want, man. Any type of joke. But then when you start, saying some personal things that you never really would have said before, like that, certain things you say could ruin a relationship. It's like, oh, wait a minute. You said that? You know, it'll make people look at you different for life. You know, there's people that said stuff to me and we not cool, man. I still look at them different to this day, and I always will. And they probably run around, well, why you don't like me?
Toronto in 1986 and serves about 30,000 customers weekly.
March was when the real tariff threat was like all the news. We had Canada flags everywhere in the store.
Tremarky says since then, his customers have moved decisively away from U.S. products.
At the height of when we are out of Canada's growing season, we could be upwards of 60%, 70% American produce, okay? Right now, we're only running at about 30%.
Canadian flags and labels mark domestic goods in aisles, while apps like MapleScan help shoppers identify origin.
You take a photo of a product, the app will scan what that product is, figure out what it is, the label, look up information online about it, essentially compile all that information together.
They not playing, man.
Product page.
They said we're not doing no U.S. products.
To kind of give you information about like the company's history, who it's been owned by in the past versus now, what are its Canadian ties.
But some items are hard to replace.
Mangoes and pears you can get from different parts of the world. When you get into things like Anjou and Bartlett pears, right now you can only get them from the United States.
The most in demand and the hardest ones to replace from the U.S. is typically berries, citrus, and greens, lettuce.
If there is produce from the U.S. and produce from Canada, and they're the same, of course, I'll go Canadian, of course.
We've always been very pro-Canadian, even way before all this stuff happened. This just reinforced it.
Canada is America's second largest food export market, worth $28.4 billion in 2024. The boycott has impacted other parts of the store too.
How is that affecting kind of these perceived American products like Coca-Cola or Lay's?
Yeah, Coca-Cola and Lay's are great examples of global brands. They actually bottle Coke bottles in Canada, about an hour and 30 minutes north of here. Frito-Lay uses Canadian potatoes. There would have been no identification of where Frito-Lay products were made. It would have been small and on the back. Once they realized that they were getting a bad rap, they went ahead and they added Made in Canada labels permanently onto the bag.
Just to let you
American
know.
staples like wine, beer, and spirits have seen the biggest change being wiped off Canadian shelves. Earlier this year, multiple Canadian provinces announced they were pulling American alcohol from their store shelves. And in March, Canada imposed a 25% tariff on all U.S. alcohol products. A 25% tariff on distilled spirit imports from Mexico and Canada could cost more than 31,000 U.S. jobs.
So we're in our wine section now. Our wine business, roughly 40% of our red wine sales is California cabs and blends. So that's $60,000 a week in sales that are just gone. They've evaporated from the United States. We're replacing it, and we're replacing it with import wines from France, from South Africa, from Australia, from New Zealand.
When your kid is hurting and there's nothing you can do about it.
In 2024, Canada was the U.S.'s top export market for alcohol, exporting $435 million worth of wine, $221 million in distilled spirits, and $41 million in beer to Canada. The loss to the U.S. is a boon to Canada, with the Buy Canada movement adding roughly $10 billion to the country's economy.
Man,
Giancarlo thinks
already.
if the tariff dispute is resolved, the boycott might ease, but it's unlikely every customer will go back to buying American.
So I actually just had to respond to a customer from last week that came in and felt like we had...
The only way, like they said, pears, cranberries, citrus, greens, that type of stuff, it's hard to get other places. The best place is the U.S. So there's limited items that need to stay on the shelves because you need them. You need it from the U.S. That's the best place right now. Can't replace it. It dropped down to 30%, and this is from 60 to 70%. When there was other products. That goes to show they really don't need our products in the store. We could just go ahead and get it imported from other countries, and there we go. Problem solved.
Too much American product, and they told us they're not going to shop at our store anymore.
And just like sales
Exactly.
are being
I
cleared
said
of
that like
American products,
couple minutes
international
ago.
travelers are clearing their travel plans to America, turning away from the country as a destination. More Canadians visit the U.S. each year than from any other country. In 2024, 20 million Canadians visited the U.S., generating $20.5 billion in spending. But the flow is slowing. Online travel searches from Canada to the U.S. dropped 50% this spring.
If you look at Canadian drive traffic, it was down nearly 30% in March. Air travel, not as bad. Combined, it was down about 15%.
and you hear it anecdotally, either Canadians staying in Canada for vacation or going to somewhere else like Europe.
Businesses along the northern U.S. border report plunging revenues, vanishing foot traffic, and uncertainty over survival.
When you look at that border traffic, as you said, Michigan, obviously with Windsor and Detroit right there. When you look at New York State, Buffalo, they've taken the brunt of that fall in Canadian travel.
Yes, they did.
And it's not just Canada. Across the Atlantic, travel
And
to
it's a shame because them being the closest to Canada before was their major benefit. Now, being closest to them is not. It is their biggest issue. And they are highly affected by it now. They can't go nowhere. Buffalo, New York cannot move somewhere else. Buffalo, New York is going to stay right there. and that's where most of their attraction was coming from. People coming from across that border. Canadian citizens.
U.S. from Europe is also dropping.
Sort of early indications from Europe that might be the case too. A core saying that bookings from Europe to the US are down 25% over the summer period.
The pullback is costly. The U.S. is on track to lose $12.5 billion in international visitor spending this year compared with 2024. It's part of a sharp reversal over the past decade, but tensions tied to trade and immigration are making it worse.
It's about $200 billion that these international travelers spend. That's bigger than all of our agricultural exports combined. We need these travelers here, obviously, from a job standpoint, a spending standpoint. You know, when these travelers come, they do nothing more than come, spend their money, and go home and tell their friends and family to do the same thing. It's free money. So discouraging these travelers, letting this deficit grow as we seek to balance the trade deficit, we're only digging a deeper hole. What are we doing to send a message that we want you coming to the United States? And that's what's been missing.
From goods to getaways, the impact of U.S. policy is reshaping international behavior, and the ripple effects may be long-lasting. The boycotts that began in Canada have spread. European consumers frustrated with American foreign policy are rejecting U.S. companies as well. And anger over Trump's comments about annexing Greenland led 44% of European consumers to say they're shifting away from U.S. products, no matter what happens with trade negotiations.
Tesla, McDonald's, these being front of mind, some of these really big household US names that they've just been rejected by some consumers in Europe.
Tesla has seen the brunt of the boycotts. Its European car sales have tanked for the 5th straight month in May, with sales plunging almost 28% from brand damage, increased competition, and the political views of CEO Elon Musk.
I want to temper the optimism a little bit. It's tough out there. I mean, the markets, particularly in the U.S. and then developed Europe, I'll say, remain very subdued. The trends, the total distilled spirits, which would be total spirit takeaway, in these markets are not anywhere near where they were 2 or 3 years ago.
The fallout from America's trade wars is no longer limited to tariffs and boycotts. Global growth is now projected to slow by nearly half a percentage point as a result.
In terms of global GDP growth, that is a big number because the annual growth is maybe like 3.5 or 4%, and you're taking 1% off of that. That's a pretty big hit.
What we're starting to see in the data is that American manufacturers based in the U.S. are starting to increase prices as a response to lowering volumes.
Because now it's more so the quantity is gone. The quantity is gone. So these prices can't be as low anymore, because we don't have as many buyers. So now we got to up the price because we'll be just lucky enough to come across a buyer. Well, if they're from the U.S., cool. But if it's a buyer from them, they got to pay them higher prices, man. Because we're not getting that other percentage of people that, was buying the stuff on the shelves. It's taking a toll, man. It's taking a toll.
Other countries, like Canada, for example.
But still, there's hope that the trade tensions will ease over the long term.
Do you think that this will be a long-term trend?
I think there will be some long-term impact where American products and American brands will be negatively impacted long-term. But I do believe there's a point where we get back to a balance of an interconnected food system because just that serves the best needs of our customers, both sides of the borders.
I know, but it's not like Canadians are doing this on purpose to be like, well, F America, da-da-da-da-da, they are not doing that on purpose. But, you're trying to send a message, I get it, to our president. And then at the same time, it's like, man, so many people are losing their jobs, man. and they are unemployed, and they're not even getting paid on their unemployment because the money's being held. A lot's been going on. Like, a lot of people are, their life is like ruined, and it just goes to show how crazy it is. Like, one person, you know, their comment or their action can have an effect, you know, on your life, man. And that's what some people are experiencing with their jobs. And it's also crazy how the U.S. is experiencing that as a whole. You know, you think you all this and that, you don't really realize how much of the support you really had coming from, you know, other countries, especially like Canada. Because when that percentage is gone, it's like, oh, we're losing a lot of money, we're scrambling, we don't know what to do with the businesses, and, you know, a lot of frustration, a lot of things are going on. It's like we're being canceled. That's literally what it's like. Like how people be canceled, I'm only hoping for the best between our countries. You know, I would really want us to get back to that relationship that we had. Respectful ties, loyal relationship, man. For real. Come on. I don't want to visit a country. I don't want to go to Europe or Canada and where you from? U.S. I'm getting side eyes and stuff. And Nova, you don't even know me yet. Everybody let me know in the comments. What do you think about this video? Please feel free to share some of your honest thoughts. Feel free to follow my Twitch in the description down below. Everyone stay safe, and I hope to catch you all in the next reaction video.